We're here at the Crystal Dome Retreat with Joseph Mark Cohen, and I'm just taking a bird's eye view of this beautiful location, and I see this amazing work of art I'm very curious about. So Joseph, this is Joseph.
Hi there.
Hi there. Joseph, I'm curious, can you tell us about this new work of art here?
Well, let's just say it's an old work of art that I didn't finish when I was in my 30s. And a wonderful healer named Jack Schwartz, I was beginning to have some health problems, and he said, the best thing for you, Joseph Mark, is to, he didn't say become a painter, but he said work with your creativity and what you love. And he suggested painting. So I started this after I'd had a dream. It was a lucid dream. This was the time when America was starting to bomb Iran or Iraq, yeah? And I was very worried. And I started rereading the book of Daniel. And all of a sudden one night I had a dream where the book opened up and I saw the chapters of Daniel as kind of a code. And I was blown away. And I said, I gotta paint this. I'd just been with Jack Schwartz. And he suggested that. So it started out, you know, there's 72 beads on the painting, which is a sacred number for both astrology and Kabbalah. Let's talk about that more. And I wasn't a quick painter, but I stayed up at nights because I was troubled with what was going on with America and in the world, and of course we've been reading about the Anunnaki and all of this, and bit by bit, and when you see the painting, it reads from right to left, as does Hebrew. So each bead has a number, and it starts up in the upper right hand corner with bead 1, and the 7th bead is probably the truest to the book of Daniel, because you've got the Hebrew word ruach, which is wind over water, and then you've got a lion's face, a bear paw, I don't know if it's a panther, a big cat, a gourd, and the very bottom bead of that is the Hebrew letter Fe or Pe, which means opening. So it's, but there's something in the book of Daniel that talks about the breaking of morning, I think. And on that little bead there's the number 42, so it's connected to a 42-word Hebrew prayer called the Ana B'Koach, which I keep on the website, treeoflifeschool.com, my version of it, probably a couple little pronunciation mistakes for good measure. And I worked on it for, you know, a couple of years, I guess, maybe longer, but slowly, because I work more as a writer, and I was working a lot with sound healing in those days. And when I moved out to British Columbia, I had it sent out. I didn't even take it off of its frame, and it sat there undone for many, many years. And then all of a sudden, I've got, you know, another health problem. I remember Jack Schwartz, and I said, I gotta start painting again. And I had a bit of soul memory about being a painter in the south of France. Not Chagall, you know, just a minor painter.
I noticed there's 12 different sets of beads. Is there a significance to
sets of
12? I noticed there's 12. I counted there's 12 different sets of beads. Is that intentional?
Yeah, because there's 12 chapters in the book of Daniel.
Okay.
Okay? And 6 is harmony, and 12 is completion. And so over time, it's veered away from the original vision, which I can't fully remember. I'll assure you that. But the numbers of the beads are significant. So in Hebrew, the far right-hand column, that's beads 1 to 6. The second one is beads 7 to 12. The third row is bead 12 to 18. and so on, up until 72. So if you look at, say, and the numbers of the beads are sometimes included in the beads. If you looked at the second row from the right, the 12th bead is a microcosm of the zodiac that appears in a synagogue in the north of Israel, which I don't think you've gotten so far in my novel, but that is a story of a ceremony that I did with a very radical Kabbalah teacher named Johanna, who became, in my book, the Unicorn Messiah. And we did a beautiful ceremony in that old synagogue, probably created by the Greek Jewish community in a place called Beit Alpha. And I had another mystical experience when I was in Capricorn, gazing where the Bima was in Cancer on the floor plan. And that's a design that many, many people love. It's very, very charming and childlike. Now, I didn't fill it in, I just did the central part of it. I might yet even put the astrological symbols on it. I don't know. And then next to that one is a diagram that you're familiar with. It's one of Stan Tennant's beautiful understandings of sacred geometry spinning. That's the bottom, that's bead number 18, third row bottom. And over time, you can see that other parts of my life have creeped in. In fact, there's 2 or 3 crop circles on the bead now, because my belief is that the circle makers are, the designers, I shouldn't say the makers, the designers are connected to the star Arcturus. I'll tell you what, Arcturus is actually 26 light years away from us, and the sacred name of God in Hebrew is 26, double 13, 13 being the gematria of love in Hebrew. So
I'm seeing a lot of star tetrahedrons.
Well,
like this
the
one.
star tetrahedron, let's see what number it is. It goes 61, I guess it's 62 in the beads there. And the star tetrahedron, Drunvalo got it from his study of Kabbalah. He calls it, in his Texan accent way, a Merkaba, but the real pronunciation in Hebrew is Merkava. The Hebrew root is the word rachav, which means to ride in a chariot, and has the number volume 222. So, the Merkava is basically the double vortex spin of the pillar of light, and he's quite accurate about that, I think, coming down through the crown chakra and the earth energy coming up through the base of the spine. And the heart chakra is the place where those two need to meet profoundly. So it's not a mechanical device, it's an understanding of how we ride in the chariot of consciousness, which is our dimensional perception, if you will. Yeah. So, and there's lots of different versions of the Tree of Life there, and I included a couple of the crop circles that I love from the Crop Circle Oracle card deck. And you see the 5th bead there is a pentagon, and that connects to astrology, because if you break a big circle up, it takes exactly 2160 years for an astrological age. Exactly may be a little inaccurate because it's hard to measure, but it's very, very close. And then 1/5 of that is 72. So every 72 years, in a certain sense, we have a new fixed star in the big zodiacal wheel with energy coming in. So that would be the 5th bead on the right-hand column there. And over time, I've got my own set of symbolisms that have crept in and pulled from different sources that I know, but it did start out with a reading of the Book of Daniel. For instance, on the 3rd bead over, which would be numbers 13, which is a harp, and that one is really connected to, it's a turtle harp, and that's connected to Pythagoras. who was a student of Kabbalah in Egypt for many years, probably in Alexandria, with Jewish Hebrew-oriented Kabbalists. So he brought much of the Hebrew number mysticism into his Pythagorean school. And a channel told me I was a part of that school. And when I asked the channel, this is a man named Edmund Harold, who may be still alive and having his own mystery school in Australia, I said, well, I was a good student. And Edmund said, Pythagoras didn't like you that much. And I said, why? And he said, well, you asked him very tough questions, and he liked to speak more than he liked to answer questions. I got goosebumps when he said that, because it's kind of my nature to ask questions. It's a Jewish thing. You don't take the word of anyone. You delve deeper into why they said what they said. So I thought that was kind of funny, and I have tremendous respect for Pythagoras as a mystery school teacher, but I don't believe that everything he said was, the voice of God.
Now, if we look two below the turtle harp,
Yeah.
and then we get to this one here.
Oh, that I had my granddaughter, Maya, do for me. Those, and she's writing in a Hebrew script that I can barely read, because it's not biblical Hebrew. It's cursive or something. And those are the three names, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Some people know the song. It's a reggae song, I believe. And I looked at those and I realized Shadrach means spiritual path. Meshach means who is the Shekhinah, who is the feminine divine, who is like the feminine divine presence. And then the last one, Abednego, means the servant of, I think in the Persian world, Nego was probably Mercury. So it was taking those three beings who were Jewish and kind of incarnated in Persia at that time. And when I looked at the beginning letters, and this is something I'd never seen, didn't see it when I, was exploring the book of Daniel, was the letter Shin, Mem, and Ayin, which is the Hebrew word Shema, listen, as in Shema Yisrael. So that's kind of a charming way of embedding that aspect of Kabbalah. And as it happens, Shin, Mem, and Ayin, Shin is spiritual fire, Mem is water, Ayin is earth energy. So it's fire, water, and earth energy. And so in a certain sense, this is a very childlike, coded painting of many aspects of the Kabbalah. And in time, I may very well put it on the internet with a picture of the bead and an explanation of each of the bead.
So I'm curious also now about the one that's to the bottom left that has the 360 right in the middle, the blue bead.
Oh, we're going to have to, I'll spend some time with that one.
So that's a complex one?
It is complex. I, as an explorer of Gematria, spent something like 30 years writing an epic poem, which I have on audio, and it should be on the website. It's called Aleph 2160, a Zodiac Aura. And I discovered that I gathered about 6 Hebrew words or phrases for each degree of the zodiac, because I was not happy, and I'm still not happy, about all these young astrologers sourcing what are called the Sabian symbols, which were channeled in a part by a psychic. And a man who was one of my teachers, Dean Rudyard, great astrologer, the founder of transpersonal astrology, he was paid to write a very good commentary about what I thought was a very flippant and psychic book of symbols. So I'm looking now at a lot of astrologers. They don't know the lore of fixed stars. They don't know number mysticism. They're just riffing off of their imagination from what they read in the Sabian symbol book. So I said, no, there has to be something deeper here. So I gathered all the gematria of words from 1 to 360, including some of the star information I was getting. So there's 6 lines I've got a poem with 6 lines of poetry for each degree of the zodiac. Okay? Then later on, I found that there was a hidden code that I wasn't aware of, where pairs of words that total 360 are nested right in the Hebrew Torah. And that blew me away. It fascinated me, it blew me away, and I had to really look at it. So at the very ending of the book, Aleph 2160, a Zodiac Oracle, which sold out, and they only printed 111 copies of it, and it went to my students in those days. But I'll keep it online as an e-book for astrologers that want to use it and get a deeper understanding of degree symbols. So this is a little chart from page 269 in Aleph 2160, which has a lot of beautiful color photographs in it, and it's got different little poems about some certain fixed stars and stuff. So what I put on that bead there, which does happen to be the 22nd bead of the painting, 22 being the number of Hebrew letters in and a master number as well, and double 11, all of that. On that bead, let me see if I can see it. You've got...
Well, we got 153 and 207 on the top left.
Okay, and 153 is the gematria of the being in Torah who built the Ark of the Covenant. His name is Betzalel, which means in the image of the Elohim. And his partner is 207, which is the Hebrew word or, light. So Betzalel, the builder of the Ark of the Covenant, was building that Ark of the Covenant to bring through the higher light frequencies of other dimensions. And John Michel, friend of mine, we used to meet in Glastonbury, and we'd share, because he knew Greek gematria from the New Testament, and I knew the gematria from the Old. So he's telling me that 153 is connected to Mary Magdalene in the New Testament, which is like feminine divine presence, Shekhinah energy. And I would say, well, 153 is Betzalel, the builder of the Ark of the Covenant. And eventually we had to kind of have a couple Guinness and say, oh, it all started in Egypt. And when you really look at the New Testament, Yeshua and Magdalene are reincarnations of Egyptian, Isis and Osiris. And there's a big 4-volume thing called The Light of Egypt that explains how much of Egyptological work was pillaged for the writing of the New Testament by whoever wrote that. Okay? So that's a very interesting one.
So,
and then on the other side, you see what, 15 and 345, yeah?
Yeah, we have 345 and 15, that's right,
Okay.
on the top right.
So 15 is the short name for God in the Old Testament, Yah, as in Yud-He, Vav-He, but it's Yah. And it could mean time and space, the creator of time and space, or the creator of the tree of life and a 5-dimensional frequency, which humans have. I mean, yeah, we can access 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th dimensions, and Tom Kenyon's got his Hathors, I think, at the 11th, and Jim Below probably has another group he's working with. But here we are on Earth. We're lucky if we can get into the 5th dimension and have a topographical view from there, So that means that Moshe, Mem Shin He, who took the Ark of the Covenant and the people out of Egypt, in my belief, from my own soul history, is that Moshe was the high priest, both at Heliopolis and at Amarna. And there you can find books that are well written that suggest that the Exodus from Egypt was really the exodus of the Hebrew people from Amarna across Egypt to a place which eventually became the home of the Essenes in Israel, and that was owned by Egypt at that time. But why did it take 40 years? Well, 40 is a symbolic number of time, space, but I think there were some political problems, and it took a long time before that group of beings were allowed in, something like that.
I'm curious, because I do know that Heliopolis, the obelisks that were there, many of them had been moved to like Constantinople and other places in
Yeah.
the world.
Well, I got a chance on my very first trip to Egypt many, many years ago. I was guiding a small group of 3 of my dearest friends. Okay? And I was sent there again by this man, Edmund Harold, after he had suggested I wear an ankh and that I would be going to Egypt. I couldn't believe it. I hadn't been to Egypt before, and I set up something called the Balthazar Study Tour. I was like 20, 25. And one of my dearest friends, who's a gifted musician, came. So we got to explore sound healing in the temples together. And I felt right at home. And the shopkeepers, everybody in Egypt treated me very, very well. And even I had a couple of waiters come up. They were studying Hebrew in university, and they were fascinated with my Hebrew necklace, which is the blessing for Joseph. So, and of course, you probably know the whole story of Joseph in Egypt. You know, he gets in jail and accused of stuff, but he eventually becomes the second in command of the Pharaoh and this and that. So it's like I was really fascinated with the Hebrew roots of civilization in Egypt. Really fascinated, and I've been there 10 times now. Whether I'll get to do another tour to Egypt in this lifetime is pretty hard to say. Right now, I don't think it's unlikely, but you never know. And
So we've got some other numbers there.
okay, let's take another pair. What do we got?
We got 214 and 146.
Whoa, okay, that's a very interesting one. 214 is the Hebrew word ruach. Okay, ruach is breath, wind, spirit. And there's a beautiful phrase, ruach Elohim, which is 214 and 86 in Gematria. And I have used that in healing work often. Do you have a good sound unit there? Okay. So a Kabbalistic way of creating chants is to take the vowels out of Hebrew words. So Ruach Elohim, close your eyes there, I guess, or ask the audience to close their eyes. It goes like this. Now that's not exactly the cantillation that rabbis would do. I'm doing it more in an Egyptian style. And it can go quick too. Probably picking up a bit of the harmonic frequencies from the crystal dome because you're inside of the sonic resonance chamber. With the beautiful hexagonal grid work in the, I think it's golden pine. I would have preferred triangular windows up there, but there's a major triangular window which needs to be cleaned. But at nighttime I can look up and see the tops of the trees and the stars from the dome, and I love it. And this happened because in 1967 there was something called Expo 67 in Montreal. And I walked into the big Bucky Dome, and I was in awe. And I went around doing a mantra that said, I want to live in one of these. I want to live in one of these. It took me many, many years to find a dome with breakout rooms and the kind of acoustics that I was looking for. Because most of the time, acoustic domes are built for amphitheaters and theaters and things. And people that have houses sometimes live in one room. A little baby dome, you know? So, and it's called the Crystal Dome because I happen to be a quartz crystal collector because I made jewelry and sold crystals and went to Brazil a few times, so, and I keep some of the better crystals in triangular windows. So, that dome, and I had the good fortune of meeting Buckminster Fuller in, I think it was 75, because I worked as the program director for a conference called the, what was it called? Well, it doesn't matter. It was a beautiful conference in Toronto. done at Convocation Hall, the World Symposium on Humanity. Strange name. But there were 3 simultaneously, one in London, one in LA, and one in Toronto. And the initial idea was to hook it up by satellite, those 3. So it began a whole wave of conferences that were world connectors. And I worked down that. I don't think I got paid a dime for it, but boy, it was a wonderful thing to work on. You know who Robert Bly is?
Yes.
Right.
Famous men's groups.
I had a panel with a friend of mine, Joan Halifax, and a man that he worked for named Joseph Campbell, who I loved for his mythological explorations. I called up Robert Bly blind. I'd never met the man, and I said, Robert, we've got a conference here in Toronto, like you to be part of. We can pay your expenses, we can pay your hotel fee, but I think you might enjoy it. And he was very cold. And I said, he just said, who's on the panel? And I said, I'd like to put you on for a 3-hour event in Convocation Hall with Joan Halifax and Joseph Campbell. He cheered up and said, I'm coming, count me in. Always wanted to meet Joe Campbell, is what he said. So that was one of the major, it was fabulous. The lights went out. Joan had brought mass, and it was 3 hours of mythological theater by 3 people that all loved mythology. They all had stories. It was gorgeous, you know. But I'm a Canadian. I made sure that we had some Canadian music there. I invited Richard and Marie-Claire Seguin, members sometimes of the French-Canadian group Harmonium, which was just as popular as the Grateful Dead in Quebec. They were very loved, you know?
Amazing.
So it was a wonderful conference. I was pushed afterwards. I think we had 700 people. Shlomo Karabach, I invited him at the impulse of a friend to do a cosmic Passover Seder. And 700 people came. I mean, I don't know how many were at the whole event, but people poured in from Toronto. And I had a head table with Samuel Avital, Kabbalah teacher of mine, and June Singer, Jungian analyst. And we had David, what was his last name? He started a center of consciousness in California, but moved to Israel. So it was a wonderful event that just spontaneously arose. So, you know, I stayed in Toronto a long time until Toronto went on a downhill ride because of becoming too much of a city, and the little community started to break up a bit. And I was living on the Toronto Island, which is a wonderful community, for a long time. And at a certain point, when I left the island, I felt I left my home. So I couldn't. I stayed. I had a clinic. I did my work right on Bloor Street, opposite the Brunswick Tavern or something. So, but I was happy to move out here to the Kootenays.
So spending all this time out here now, I see doing these little works of art. Is this a way to kind of bring together all of your life experiences?
Yeah, in a certain way it is, Dan, you know, in a certain way it's, you know, I'm older now, I don't travel as much, I'm not doing as many tours to sacred sites, so painting is visceral, and I love it, you know, and I even have helpers for the painting now. And I don't know if I'll, you know, how to say, I'll bring it to a certain level of completion, but me, I'd keep working on it forever.
So I see there's a lot of, you say there's a lot of collaborators for this piece?
There's a few.
Okay.
There's a few.
So I like to look at all the different ones, and I recognize some of the symbolism.
Yeah.
When I look in the second, from the far left, I look down on the second bead, I see what I think is like a little bit like the Eye of Horus. There, that purple.
It is. Second at the bottom?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is the Eye of Horus. You got it. But I put in, you know, another, there's an owl.
Yeah, there's like an owl to the right of that.
And there's even a color coding. Like in this painting, I'm working with turquoise and cobalt together, green and gold together. I guess there's an orange and turquoise.
So I'm seeing the green and the gold here. Looks like kind of like an owl symbol.
Well, go up higher there, and you'll see the owl, the 3 owls crop circle, up above there, above the Metatronich grid, high up. that crop circle go way up.
Way up.
Okay?
Way, way up.
Okay, so I happen to have the good fortune.
I see. That is the owl.
Yeah, so I can put it into the painting. You know, they get a bleed through from other parts of cell, but that particular one's interesting, and it's in the crop circle oracle card deck. I forget which number right now, but.
And I noticed it's between two, the Hopi or some native hand symbol on the left, and the Tibetan hand symbol on the right.
Well, yes, but that's also a Persian keeping away the evil eye hand, and it has 2 thumbs and 3 fingers, which is kind of weird, I guess, but it's symmetrical. And then I put 3 charged crystals underneath it for the energy coming out of the fingertips.
Wow.
And the crop circle was an amazing ceremony. We had like, I guess, 40 people. And this is a tour that Stephen, Karen, Alexander, friends of mine in Britain, Temporary Temples is the website. It's diminished now in size, but you know, Michael Glickman works with sacred geometry. So I was on a tour before the conference. We had like maybe 40 people. And when I got into that circle, I got a download of energy, so to speak. And I said, would you like to do a ceremony here? And it took a while for everybody to come. So I got a group together, and I felt there was a pillar of light, still quite visceral, in the center of each of the eyes. We were in the second eye of 4. Actually, it's a picture of 3 owls. Whitley Strieber will say, when you see 3 owls, it's an imminent download of UFO energy. So I got them together. I asked them to come and touch the pillar at the center of that circle. Everybody did it. We got our hands together. We pulsed in close. And then I think many people experienced viscerally a line of light going right into the center of the eye of the owl. I was in tears, I think. It was just an amazing feeling of energy. And I've had that a few times in crop circles. Enough for me to feel that they're sacred. And they've been so, how shall I say it, commercialized, bastardized in many ways, that and then people think, oh, guys did them with boards. It's bullshit. Take your camera over to see the ground level shot over there. The one above it is a big full circle that I was in. And then what you're looking at right now is the weave at ground level. That is the sign of an authentic crop circle, macrocosm, microcosm. Macrocosm being the big sacred geometry, microcosm being the beautiful weave right down at ground level.
That's amazing.
It is amazing, and when you're in a circle and you're going around the circle, you can spend an infinite amount of time, and it almost brings you to tears, the beauty.
Wow. Think about the thousands of hours that would take if you could even conceive of it as a human being.
So that's, you know, I was going to Stephen Cairns conference for many years, spoke at it a few times, and the crop circles still happen in Britain, but they've gone worldwide. And people used to ask me, well, what do you, and I've got a video up from a conference that I spoke at in Glastonbury Symposium a few years ago. And my feeling is that the crop circles are actually working, they're like acupuncture for the earth crystal grid. So it's an energy of higher dimensions coming down, particularly in Britain, on the ley lines, John Michel pointed this out, and then activating the grid. I've got a book that you've enjoyed a little bit, Pie in the Sky, showing that there's ley lines coming from outside Sligo, Ireland, where the poet W.B. Yeats was, probably coming from a northern part of Atlantis or something like that, going right to the Giza Pyramid. So
these crop circles are tapping into the same intelligence of the Earth grid, the way the ancient builder races and the advanced cultures did in the past.
Absolutely. And the Kabbalah is a residual sacred science held and cherished by, how should we say it, first Egyptian, then Hebrew priests and priestesses, and still very poorly understood. I mean, I don't know many rabbis, I mean, they do a good job with bar mitzvahs and weddings and stuff, but they don't go to that level. Whereas I've been free in this lifetime to explore that deeply. And I love Hebrew, and I was fortunate to, learn it as a child. Now, you wanted to do another bead, another.
Well, what I'm looking at, I'm noticing the tree of life symbols.
Yeah.
So now I'm looking right in the very middle, to the right of the lion.
Oh yeah.
Is the green, looks like tree of life / Metatron's cube symbol.
Yeah.
It's a tree of life symbol that I've not seen before.
Well, that's more an ancient Kabbalistic one done in kind of a very particular shape. But the 10 spheres are there in gold.
Wow.
Okay. And if I did another version of just the tree, I'd put in Da'at in a different color, which is the 11th sphere, which is the center of a hexagon above. I might even put in the Or Ein Sof in a kind of a hidden half a sphere above the crown. Like I would do my own version, and maybe I'll do that still.
Now on the top left, we've got the 8 tree of life coming together at a center point.
6?
1, 2, 3. Oh yeah, there's 6.
Yeah.
Well, I say 8 because I think of one on the top and the bottom that are invisible.
Okay, good for you. Well, that one is a hexagonal Star of David branching out. And then the one that you like a lot, that you've told me before that you like, which you call the Merkaba, or I would call the Merkava, is the double triangle spinning of energies coming from heaven to earth and earth going back to
I always imagine that one spinning.
Yeah. Well, it is spinning, and Trimvolo did a good job, I think, explicating to a non-Hebrew audience some of what he understands. And don't forget, he spent time in Egypt too.
Of the physics of the star tetrahedron and the energy associated.
Yeah. And he wrote a good book on Egypt, and I was actually in Egypt at the same time when he was there. So, I couldn't actually do it in 3D, but it was really fun to do, to get it to pop out as much as it could on a painting. Got another one? There's one I better talk about.
Yeah, which one?
It is the 6th row, just before the Star of David down there. Okay? That is a turtle. And a turtle often is connected to the number 13, because often they have, maybe all of them do, I don't know. I haven't seen enough turtles yet in my life. There's 13 panels on the outer shell. Okay? So, what I did is I got little Hebrew letters, and I wasn't sure I could draw them accurately to be read, but so I took them from a friend of mine who put out a beautiful card deck on Hebrew ones. So what you've got there is 5 letters: Aleph, Resh, Gimel, Mem, and Nun. Now Aleph and Resh is the beginning of the word or, light, but this is traditional in Kabbalah. There is a color that both the Hebrew people and the Mayan people discovered from a little crustacean or something that lived under the water in Mexico, off of Mexico, and the Mediterranean Sea. So Argaman is kind of like a reddish purple energy, I believe. I didn't do it in that color, but it's also the code for 5 very important angels in the Kabbalah. These angels are Uriel, the angel of light; Raphael, the angel of healing. You can see the Resh is a little bit bigger. Gavriel, the angel of boundaries and you could call it will, personal strength, all of that. Mikael, the angel of the heart chakra, who is like unto God, the angel of the center of the sun, one could say. And Uriel, Raphael, Gabriel, Mikael, and Nuriel, which is an angel that I used to work with a lot in Kabbalah retreats. Nuriel is the inner light. The Sufis talk about the Nur, the inner light, where the light comes into you and you create a container for it. Ner is a candle. Okay, Nuriel is the angel of the inner candle of light inside the soul.
Wow.
Like that. And angelology is a big aspect of Kabbalah. So just chanting those is beautiful. I'll do it quickly and so it's a menorah of angels, the 5 angels, Nuriel being the last one. So, in a certain sense, I'm seeing if every bead can pop open to be a chant. I mean, I've got a few of them, but just the number mysticism is important enough.
And on the very left, the third one down, you have a black and white circular symbol that look like wheels within wheels. It looks like a labyrinth.
Which row is it?
Well, if you look on the camera here.
Yeah, oh, okay. That I pulled out of something from a conference on Nikola Tesla. It's a frequency generator that sends a signal out into the universe.
So it's an antenna of some kind.
You know, and it's very, 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 it's like a broadcast signal. And then look at the one underneath it, the purple one. I just added something to that.
Spider web.
It's a spider web. It's not the World Wide Web, but it's a spider web creating, you know, your Hopi mythology about the spider and all that. And I put that symbol, the symbol in the middle of it, which you're not going to be able to catch, I don't think, unless you go right up to it. Because I wanted to have fun with this. I found in my collection an ancient Israeli simonim, which is what used to work in the phones in Israel. Got a little bit of Hebrew.
Looks a bit like a coin.
That's a coin, but it's a telephone token. They're probably extinct, or maybe people collect them, I don't know. So I thought, well, telephone token, it's about staying in touch, you know? So that's for, you know, Israelis that might see this photograph and remember it, they'll laugh. And then there's another one underneath the Tree of Life on the 4th column in turquoise and white, I guess. And that's another version of the Tree of Life called the Line of Light, where the spheres are the 10 spheres are circular, and you've got the line coming in from the spirit world to the core and then back out. It's the line of light through the 10 dimensions of self, we could say, because each of the spheres of the Tree of Life represents a dimension of the soul, the energy body, that sort of thing.
Wow. And a little meteorite, it looks like you've got, I don't know if that's a meteorite, but it's on the green. It's the only green.
Oh, you're talking about the stone that I found in the Great Lakes that's got the 2 eyes on it. Is that one?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, that was fun. A friend of mine, I think I was walking with my friend Shelley, and we found some beautiful stones, and I kept it. And that's one of the things I'm doing right now, is just adding little stones, crystals to it, medicine wheels here and there. For instance, what should I talk about?
Well, those, I'm curious, because we didn't talk about those wood triangles at the very top.
You're going to laugh. When I put in the bamboo floor in the dome, or had to put in, I wanted to put in a marquee floor out of triangles, because I love it. You know, that's like inlay work in an Egyptian box. Yeah? And the guy said, well, it's going to be 5 hours worth of work to do it. And I said, just make me 40 of the triangles. I'll figure out what to do with them. So they sat around for ages. And then all of a sudden, I was at a loss as to what I couldn't put in a Hebrew amulet like this one, up at the top with Hebrew letters, a little too complex for me. So I got out the bamboo and used the sacred design. If I had a couple left, I might even make a Star of David of it and put it on. It's possible. And then a buddy of mine suggested, well, why don't you put the micro-tetractys, which is the first 3 levels on it, as a download of energy from the upper worlds coming in. And as it happens, it's connecting to like a beautiful amethyst crystal there, And it's going right between, it's symmetrical between 36 beads on one side and 36 beads on the other side. I have a blast doing this, and I don't know, this might be the only public way of sharing it is to put it up on YouTube. So why not?
So thank you so much, Joseph. That was a beautiful introduction to your dome and this beautiful piece of art.
Well, just a delight, and you know, hopefully it'll find a lovely place to be displayed, but it's going to be in the Crystal Dome for a while yet, and I certainly invite people to come and study Kabbalah in a fun way. You know, it's like everybody that comes, I'm interested in their 7-year-old inner self. I'm not interested in their 50 or 60 or 40-year-old cognitive being. I'm interested in how they can pull things in through their energy body, their heart, and understand that the world's filled with all sorts of mysteries. The mind's only going to get a certain portion of it, but for level of the mind, Hebrew Gematria is probably the deepest science of numerology and sacred science that you're going to find.
Thank you, Joseph.
My pleasure.